You know the Gestapo as Hitler's secret police? Black uniforms, midnight raids, torture chambers, the machine that disappeared millions into camps and cellars across Nazi Europe. But when the Reich collapsed in 1945, what happened to the men who ran this apparatus of terror? Where did they go when the uniforms came off? The answer will disturb you. May 8th, 1945. Germany surrenders. Heinrich Müller, Reichsführer SS and architect of the Gestapo, swallows a cyanide capsule in British custody, but Himmler was just the head. Beneath him sat dozens of Oberführers, Gruppenführers, and department chiefs who built the killing machine. These men didn't vanish into smoke. If you value documented World War II history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Nuremberg trial records and declassified Allied intelligence files. Now back to the story. Heinrich Müller ran Gestapo operations from 1939 to 1945. Department 4 of the Reich Security Main Office. Every arrest order, every deportation list, every torture session crossed his desk. May 1st, 1945. Soviet tanks roll through Berlin. Müller disappears, not captured, not confirmed dead, gone. The Americans hunt him, the Soviets hunt him. His body never surfaces in the Reich Chancellery bunker rubble where other Nazi leaders died. Witness reports place him alive in May 1945. Fleeing south toward the Alpine Redoubt, then nothing. Heinrich Müller, the man who signed death warrants for millions, simply evaporated. But Müller left traces. His signature appears on documents dated April 30th, 1945, Hitler's suicide day. Gestapo headquarters on Prince Albrecht Strasse already under Soviet artillery fire. Müller was still working, still signing orders, the machinery grinding until the final hour. CIA files declassified in 1999 reveal 3 separate Müller sightings in South America between 1947 and 1952. Buenos Aires, Cordoba, Paraguay, all unconfirmed. The ghost of the Gestapo haunting Allied intelligence for decades. Franz Six, SS Brigade Führer, Chief of Department 7, Ideological Research and Ethnic Cleansing Policy, captured by American forces in 1945. Nuremberg Trial, 1948, 20 years for war crimes, serves 4 years. Released 1952. What happens next? Six gets a job. Not hiding in South America or changing his name. A consulting position with the Jekaln organization, the CIA-backed intelligence network in West Germany. The Americans knew exactly who he was. They hired him anyway. Cold War priorities trumped justice. Six's expertise? Soviet intelligence analysis. The man who planned the extermination of Eastern European intellectuals now briefed American officials on communist threats. His salary came from CIA funds channeled through West German intelligence. The irony was intentional. Arthur Nebe commanded Einsatzgruppe B on the Eastern Front, mobile killing units that followed the Wehrmacht into Soviet territory. Nebe's unit murdered 90,000 civilians in 6 months, mostly Jews, Roma, and Soviet officials, shot them in ravines and forests from Belarus to Ukraine. Nebe used gas vans before Auschwitz perfected the chambers. Experimental killings near Minsk, September 1941. 60 mental patients locked inside a sealed truck, engine exhaust piped into the cargo area. 20 minutes later, 60 corpses. Nebe filed efficiency reports on the method, but Nebe had a problem. July 20th, 1944, the plot to assassinate Hitler. Nebe was in it. When the bomb failed, he knew his days were numbered. August 1944, Nebe goes into hiding in Berlin. The Gestapo, his own organization, hunts him down. Caught in January 1945, tried by the People's Court, hanged March 2nd, 1945. The machine devoured its own. Adolf Eichmann, Department 4, B4, the Final Solutions logistics coordinator. Eichmann didn't pull triggers or operate gas chambers. He managed train schedules, made sure cattle cars ran on time to Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor. 6 million deaths organized through timetables and bureaucracy. Eichmann's office at Kurfürstenstrasse 66 processed deportation orders for 27 countries. Hungary alone, 437,000 Jews deported in 56 days during summer 1944, 150 people per cattle car, 40 cars per train. The mathematics of murder. May 1945, Eichmann surrenders to American forces, gives a false name. Wilhelm Henninger, sits in a POW camp for 2 years, his real identity unknown. 1947, he escapes. 1950, reaches Argentina with Vatican assistance. Lives openly in Buenos Aires as Ricardo Clement. 15 years later, May 11th, 1960, Mossad agents snatch Eichmann off a Buenos Aires street. Operation Finale. 8 days later, he's in an Israeli prison cell. Trial begins April 1961. The world watches. December 15th, 1961. Guilty verdict. Death sentence. Hanged June 1st, 1962. His ashes scattered at sea beyond Israel's territorial waters. Werner Best, Gestapo's legal theorist, the man who wrote the laws that made terror legal. Protective custody without trial. Collective punishment for resistance. Deportation orders that bypassed courts entirely. Best drafted the legal framework for the Holocaust. Best's masterpiece, the Decree for the Protection of People and State, February 28th, 1933. Suspended constitutional rights indefinitely. Allowed arrests without warrants, searches without cause, executions without trial. The legal foundation for 12 years of Nazi rule. 1942, Best becomes Reich plenipotentiary for occupied Denmark. Orders the roundup of Danish Jews, October 1943. But the Danes resist. 8,000 Jews evacuated to Sweden in fishing boats. Only 472 caught. Best's failure saves lives. War ends. Best captured by British forces. Nuremberg judges sentence him to death, 1948. Commuted to life imprisonment. Released, 1951. Returns to Germany. Becomes a lawyer again. Dies peacefully in 1989, age 85. Never faced justice for his Danish crimes. If you're finding this valuable, hit subscribe and let us know your city in the comments. Now back to the story. Rudolf Diehl, the original Gestapo chief, 1933 to 1934. Before Himmler took control, Diehl built the foundation, surveillance networks. Interrogation techniques, the system of informants that made Nazi terror possible. But Diehl had enemies. Heinrich Müller wanted his job. Diehl organized the Gestapo's first headquarters at 8 Prince Albrechtstrasse, basement cells for interrogation, soundproofed rooms, filing systems that tracked every German citizen's political reliability. The bureaucracy of fear started here. July 1934, night of the long knives. Hitler purges SA leadership. Diehl barely survives. Reassigned to obscure posts, stays alive by keeping his head down. War's end finds him in Allied custody. Denazification court classifies him as a major offender. 5 years in prison. Released 1950. Diehl writes memoirs. Portrays himself as a moderate who tried to restrain SS excesses. Claims he saved lives. Some historians believe parts of his story. Dies 1957 in a hunting accident. Convenient timing, just as prosecutors were investigating his wartime role. Hans Cameler, SS Obergruppenführer, built the concentration camp system's infrastructure, gas chambers, crematoria, administrative buildings. Cameler's construction division turned murder into an industrial process. Later, managed the V-weapon program, put slave laborers in underground factories. Cameler's engineering specs for Birkenau, 4 large crematoria, each handling 2,000 bodies per day. Underground gas chambers disguised as shower rooms, ventilation systems to clear Zyklon B gas, loading lifts to move corpses to furnaces, industrial murder with German precision. April 1945, Cameler disappears. Some reports say suicide. Others claim he surrendered to Americans and was secretly recruited for rocket technology. His fate remains disputed. Body never found. Another ghost from the Reich's collapse. Bruno Streckenbach, Gestapo operations chief in occupied Poland, organized the mass execution of Polish intellectuals. September 1939, Operation Tannenberg, 15,000 teachers, priests, and civic leaders shot in the first months of occupation. The plan to decapitate Polish society. Streckenbach worked from prepared lists. The Sonderfahndungsbuch Polen, special wanted list for Poland. 61,000 names compiled before the invasion. University professors, judges, politicians, writers, anyone who could lead Polish resistance. Shot in forests outside Warsaw, Krakow, and dozens of smaller towns. May 1945, Streckenbach captured by Soviets, sentenced to 25 years in Siberian camps, actually serves the full term. Released 1955, returns to West Germany, lives quietly until 1977, never prosecuted by German courts. The Cold War made prosecution politically inconvenient. Karl Oberg, higher SS and police leader for occupied France. Oberg coordinated deportations from Drancy transit camp outside Paris. 75,000 French Jews sent east between 1942 and 1944. Most died at Auschwitz. Oberg's efficiency impressed Berlin. Weekly trains from Drancy, each carrying 1,000 deportees. Children separated from parents, loaded into separate cars. The manifests listed ages: 3 years old, 18 months, newborns. Bureaucracy recorded everything. 1945, Oberg captured by Americans. Extradited to France, 1946. French court sentences him to death. Commuted to life imprisonment, 1958. Released 1962 for health reasons. Dies 1965 in West Germany. Served 17 years for 75,000 murders. Here's what the trials missed. In 1963, prosecutor Fritz Bauer estimated 20,000 Germans participated directly in Holocaust implementation. Nuremberg tried major war criminals, about 200 defendants total across all proceedings. The Einsatzgruppen trial convicted 24 men. Other subsequent trials maybe added 200 more convictions. The math is brutal. Less than 5% of Holocaust perpetrators ever faced trial. The rest melted back into German society, changed their names, moved to new towns, found quiet jobs. The machinery of genocide staffed by ordinary bureaucrats who returned to ordinary lives. Joseph Spassel, Gestapo treasury chief, managed stolen Jewish property worth billions in today's currency. Gold teeth from death camps, jewelry seized at deportation centers, bank accounts confiscated from murdered families. Spassel laundered it all through Swiss banks and Vatican accounts. Spassel's ledgers recorded everything: 2.7 tons of dental gold from Auschwitz in 1943 alone, wedding rings sorted by weight and purity, currency from 27 countries, the profit margin on genocide, war's end. Spassel burns the files, escapes to Italy with Vatican help, reaches Argentina, 1948, opens a business in Buenos Aires, never extradited, dies 1952, taking his secrets to the grave. Some fled overseas. The ratlines, escape networks through Italy to South America, Vatican assistance, Red Cross travel documents, sympathetic officials who looked the other way. Argentina received the most, also Paraguay, Chile, Brazil, small German communities where a man could disappear. Bishop Alois Hudal ran the key Vatican ratline, Austrian prelate sympathetic to fascism. His office issued false travel documents to thousands of Nazi fugitives, Vatican passports stamped with new identities, Christian charity perverted into escape assistance. The ratlines moved like assembly lines, Rome to Genoa by train, ships to Buenos Aires or Santos, new papers waiting at each stop. Operation Bernard counterfeiter Adolf Berger estimated 5,000 Nazis used Vatican routes between 1945 and 1950. Klaus Barbie, Gestapo chief in Lyon. The Butcher of Lyon tortured French resistance members personally. Electrical shocks, waterboarding, systematic beatings, sent 44 Jewish children from Izu orphanage to Auschwitz. None survived. 1947, Americans recruit Barbie for intelligence work. Cold War priorities override war crimes. Barbie provides information on communist networks in occupied Germany. When French prosecutors demand extradition, Americans smuggle him to Bolivia via ratlines. Barbie lives openly in La Paz for 30 years, uses his real name, advises Bolivian military on interrogation techniques. Finally, extradited to France, 1983. Trial begins 1987. Life sentence for crimes against humanity. Dies in prison, 1991. But here's the reveal that reframes everything. 1998. The German government finally opens the BKA files. Federal Criminal Police Archives restricted for 50 years. Inside, over 3,000 suspected war criminals living in West Germany from 1949 to 1979. Names, addresses, employment records. The government knew exactly where they were. The files show a pattern. Former Gestapo officers became police detectives, customs officials, court clerks. SS doctors opened medical practices. Concentration camp administrators ran businesses. The expertise transferred seamlessly from persecution to peacetime careers. Alois Bruner, Eichmann's deputy for deportations. Bruner organized the transport of 128,000 Jews from Austria, Greece, and France to death camps. His signature on train manifests from Salonika, Nice, and Drancy. Bruner escaped to Syria, 1954, protected by Damascus government in exchange for intelligence services. Letter bombs from unknown senders cost him an eye in 1961, fingers in 1980. Died in Syria around 2001. Never faced trial. Justice delayed became justice denied. Most died of old age before prosecution resumed in the 1970s. The final push came too late. Operation Last Chance, launched 2002. Identified potential war criminals still alive. Few prosecutions resulted. Time had run out. The Gestapo's organizational structure enabled the dispersal. No central command after May 1945. Regional offices destroyed their files. Personnel scattered across occupied zones. Allied authorities lacked coordination. Intelligence services recruited useful suspects instead of prosecuting them. The machine broke. The operators lived. Gustav Vagner, deputy commander of Sobibor death camp. Wagner supervised the murder of 200,000 Jews using carbon monoxide from tank engines. Prisoners called him the Beast. Wagner perfected the deception, fake train stations, luggage collection points, shower rooms that were actually gas chambers. 1943. Sobibor prisoner revolt. 300 inmates escape. Vagner shoots fleeing prisoners personally. After the uprising, Himmler orders Sobibor demolished. Vagner transfers to Trieste, hunting Italian partisans. War ends. Vagner disappears. Surfaces in Syria, 1950. Protected by government contacts, works as mechanic. 1958, moves to Brazil, lives openly in Sao Paulo, suburb for 20 years. Brazilian authorities know his location, refuse extradition requests from Germany and Israel. 1979, Brazilian Supreme Court finally approves extradition. Vagner found dead in his backyard the next morning. Knife wound to the chest, ruled suicide. Neighbors heard no struggle. The beast died quietly, 34 years after his crimes. Theodor Dannecker. Eichmann's specialist for Western Europe deportations. Dannecker organized the Vel de Hive Roundup, July 1942. 13,000 Parisian Jews arrested in 2 days, families separated, held in cycling stadium without food or water for a week, then trains to Auschwitz. Dannecker's obsession with numbers impressed Berlin. Weekly deportation quotas, statistical reports on Jewish population reduction, efficiency comparisons between countries. Bulgaria deports 11,000. France ships 75,000. Italy only 8,000. Dannecker pushed for higher totals everywhere. December 1944. American forces near Bad Tölz. Dannecker shoots himself in his hotel room. Leaves behind detailed diaries documenting every deportation. Names, dates, train numbers, destination camps. The bureaucrat of death kept perfect records until the end. Friedrich Jekaln, higher SS and police leader for Ukraine and Baltic states. Jekaln invented the sardine method, naked victims lying face down in trenches, shot in the back of the head. Bodies stacked in layers to maximize grave capacity. Efficient mass murder. Babillard Ravine, September 29th to 30th, 1941. Jekaln's units murder 33,771 Kiev Jews in 2 days, largest single massacre of the Holocaust. German efficiency reports praise the operation's speed and thoroughness. Jekaln used the same method across the Baltic, Rumbla Forest near Riga, November 28, 1941. 25,000 Latvian Jews shot in 8 hours. Jekaln personally supervised the killing pits, measured body capacity, optimized ammunition use. February 1946, Soviets capture Jekaln in Riga. Trial begins immediately. Death sentence. Executed February 3, 1946. One of the few senior Gestapo leaders who faced quick justice. Soviet courts moved faster than Western tribunals. The Vatican ratlines weren't charity, they were business. Croatian priest Krunoslav Draganovic charged $5,000 per Nazi, equivalent to $60,000 today. Fake Red Cross passports cost extra. First-class ship passage to Argentina doubled the fee. Draganovic's client list included some of the worst. Franz Stangl from Treblinka, Eduard Roschmann, the Butcher of Riga, Alois Brunner's transport coordinator. The Vatican officially denied knowledge. Bank records showed regular payments to Draganovic's Roman accounts. Bishop Hudal's ratline competitor was Croatian. Both men recruited former Nazi intelligence officers for Cold War operations. The refugees weren't just escaping, they were being hired. Western intelligence services paid their travel costs in exchange for Soviet information. Oskar Derlawanger, SS Oberfuhrer, who commanded the most brutal unit in Nazi service. Derlawanger Brigade, used in Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, 1943. Burned buildings with civilians inside. Shot children for target practice. Even Wehrmacht officers complained about their methods. Derlawanger recruited from concentration camps and military prisons. Poachers, rapists, murderers, given uniforms and weapons, told to kill everything. No survivors, no prisoners. The brigade left no witnesses to their atrocities across Poland and Belarus. June 1945, French forces capture Derlawanger, dies in Allied custody, possibly beaten to death by guards who discovered his unit's record. Body buried in unmarked grave. Some reports claim he escaped and died in Egypt, 1956. Truth remains disputed. Johann Reichardt, Bavaria's state executioner. Reichardt operated the guillotine at Stadelheim prison in Munich. Executed over 3,000 people between 1933 and 1945. Political prisoners, resistance fighters, Jews who violated race laws. The blade fell every few days. Reichardt kept detailed execution logs, time of death, body weight, final words. Methodical records of industrial killing. His guillotine processed an average of 200 victims per year during the war. Faster than hanging, more reliable than shooting. May 1945, Americans arrest Reichardt. Denazification court classifies him as a follower, not a major offender. Released after 2 years, returns to his pre-war job as a carpenter. Dies peacefully in 1972. The executioner got a quiet retirement. Hermann Huffler, Eichmann's deputy for Operation Reinhard, the systematic murder of Polish Jews. Huffler coordinated the killing camps, Belzec, Sobibor, Treblinka, 1.7 million people murdered in these 3 facilities alone. Huffler's, January 1943. Cable to Berlin, reported progress. Lublin district, 24,135 processed in December. Belzec total to date, 434,508. Clinical language for mass murder. Austrian police arrest Huffler in 1961. Extradition to West Germany for trial. August 20th, 1962, found hanging in his cell. Suicide note claims innocence. Trial documents reveal the true scope of Operation Reinhard for the first time. The BKA files revealed something else, a systematic cover-up. West German intelligence services actively protected former Nazis working in government positions. Police chiefs, prosecutors, judges who had served the Reich. Their expertise was deemed valuable for the new democracy. Hans Globke drafted the Nuremberg race laws in 1935, legal framework for Jewish persecution. Globke's commentaries defined who counted as Jewish under Nazi law. His interpretations sent thousands to death camps. 1953. Globke becomes chief of staff to Chancellor Konrad Adenauer, controls access to the most powerful man in West Germany. East German propaganda exposes his Nazi past. Western allies ignore the evidence. Globke serves until 1963. The pattern repeated across government ministries. Foreign Office employed 43 former Nazi Party members in senior positions by 1952. Justice Ministry hired judges who had sentenced resistance fighters to death. Continuity trumped accountability. Erich Nauman commanded Einsatzgruppe B after Arthur Nebe's defection. Nauman's units killed civilians across Belarus and Western Russia. 60,000 victims in 6 months of operations. Mass shootings in Smolensk, Vitebsk, and dozens of smaller towns. Nauman developed mobile killing techniques, truck-mounted machine guns, portable gas chambers, mass grave excavators. The technology of genocide moved with the advancing Wehrmacht. Local populations learned to hide when German vehicles approached. Nuremberg Einsatzgruppen trial, 1947. Nauman sentenced to death, commuted to life imprisonment, 1951. Released 1954 after serving 7 years for 60,000 murders. Returns to Germany, works as construction manager, dies 1973, never prosecuted again. The mathematics of injustice are stark. Historians estimate 1 million Germans participated in Holocaust operations: soldiers, police, administrators, guards, train crews, construction workers, all part of the killing machine. Post-war prosecutions, Nuremberg and subsequent trials convicted fewer than 1,000 Germans for Holocaust crimes. Soviet courts in Eastern Europe tried several thousand more. Total prosecutions maybe reached 5,000 cases. The ratio tells the story. For every Holocaust perpetrator prosecuted, 200 escaped justice. The vast majority returned to normal lives, opened shops, taught school, joined police forces, ran businesses. The bureaucrats of genocide became the builders of post-war prosperity. Operation Paperclip brought 1,600 Nazi scientists to America. Wernher von Braun, who used slave labor to build V-2 rockets, became NASA's hero. Kurt Blome, who conducted biological weapons experiments on prisoners, advised the U.S. Army on germ warfare. Expertise mattered more than war crimes, but the ghosts still surface. Construction crews in Berlin dig up Gestapo basement cells during urban development. Soil samples from Prince Albrechtstrasse contain traces of human ash. Building foundations rest on mass graves discovered during subway construction. The machine broke, the operators lived, the ground remembers,